Hello, welcome to assignment in the presentation titled The Role of a Project Manager in both Agile and traditional project settings. Now, to begin with, let's actually see what project management entails in both Agile and traditional. So, although a product may follow Agile or traditional methodologies, there's like some general ideas. There's some general responsibility, the core responsibilities of a project manager. And they're as follows. First of all, there's goal orientation. So if it's a big project, you need someone to guide it. And if the course of the project or the product steers off of the path of the intended route, that is like what the team intends, then the project manager can in fact help reorientate or realign the project to its purpose. There's resource management. So every person, every asset, every technology, like most of the things that are used can be considered as resources in a project, and to manage that is, well, one of the core responsibilities of a project manager. There's also communication. So if, say, for example, there's two teams, they have a conflict, the project manager can help resolve the conflict and help the communication process between the two teams go smoothly. Then there's problem solving. So if there's a big problem with the project or there's some major change that needs to be taken, the project manager can basically help the folks out to figure this stuff out. And then last but not the least, there's a quality focus. So if the quality of the product or the end product starts to degrade, the project manager can help get the team more focused on delivering the quality that was expected by the client. Now, leadership in agile and traditional settings. So in agile, I'll keep it simple. In an agile setting, the collaborative and facilitative nature of agile carries on to the leadership. So basically, that's like the leadership also has to follow a similar pattern of not being too authoritative, as is apparent in traditional waterfall settings. Then there's the fact that agile is adaptive and responsive, so the leadership also has to be really adaptive to any sort of change and be responsive to any form of change that needs to be undertaken. Leadership is also inspirational and visionary, so it's not static, it's not rigid, it's subject to change. And then in an agile setting, the leadership needs to be transparent and has to have great and open communication so that everyone on the team feels comfortable, they're confident in their leadership, and the morale is up. On the other hand, in a traditional setting, the leadership is usually authoritative and direct. There's only orders. There's not much room for discussion with the team members. There's also the fact that it is really, really controlling. So every aspect of the team's development cycle, or the product's development cycle more like, is directly controlled by the leadership. There's also the fact that unlike the uh, visionary ideology that the agile leadership follows, the traditional leadership usually will prefer to avoid any and all sorts of risk and to be predictive in its approach. Um, Next is the fact that the traditional leadership is also a bit more process oriented and is well structured, and it is based around formal communication and reporting. So unlike reporting in agile, basically it is really similar, but in agile you have a lot of wiggle room, there's a lot of liberty that's given, but in traditional setting it's really strict. Now, what about the communication and collaboration? So um, in both of the settings, in agile as well as traditional, communication style is it's quite similar, as in the fact that there has to be some form of passage of information between the leadership or the management and the teams. But in Agile, it's a lot more informal. There's no standardized way of conveying information. It's not strictly enforced. If it's only enforced in like small regions or sections of the project, so as to make it easier for teams to collaborate. Whereas in traditional methods, it's really formal, it's strict, and it is enforced properly. There's also collaboration dynamics. So in Agile, the team, it's encouraged to be more active. There has to be more and more client collaboration, and there's a focus on more of a shared decision-making process. But in a traditional setting, there's a top-down approach. There's not much collaboration with the client. They're not open to opinions unless you have a very well-founded reason. Now, the last point, stakeholder engagement. So Agile, once again, it is more involved compared to traditional settings. So Agile likes to be more collaborative, and that reflects in the management and the team leadership as well. So there's more of an involvement with the stakeholders. It's transparent, it's more active, and on the other hand, the traditional methods have at most a particular milestone system that they can refer to when dealing with stakeholders to give them reports about their progress. Now, let's talk about adaptability and flexibility in both of these. So on the left, there's stuff for Agile. On the right, there's stuff for traditional approaches. So basically, Agile, as we've observed so far, and as is mentioned in many places, it embraces change. So most of Agile methodologies are built around the idea of embracing change that reflects in the project management and the leadership. The process is iterative, meaning that we can see the leadership actually constantly being in touch with the teams and making changes wherever needed. If a particular part of the product is not viable anymore, it's quickly either replaced, removed, or refactored. Similarly, team autonomy. So Agile teams are often given more lenient workspace rules. They're given more leeway, more wiggle room. They have the freedom to actually try different things. If something works out, they can propose the changes to the project manager, and it is implemented quickly. On the other hand, predictive planning is one of the big ones for traditional project management, meaning that the project plan has to be upfront and it has to be set in stone before the project starts, as we've seen with waterfall methodologies. Similarly, there's a lot. So change in control processes, any change in the direction, like regarding the direction of the project, where it's headed, how it's going to be developed. Like, for example, if there's a difference in the stack that's been used for developing a project, if it is proposed, it has to go through a rigorous formal testing and through a lot of layers of management, basically. So the entire process is a lot less fluid compared to Agile. Similarly, there's another thing, sustainability and predictability. So for all the cons that traditional planning has in comparison to Agile, it does provide stability, long-term stability, because it's so well planned. And there's also a lot of predictability. So you can basically just full on point out where the project might or has gone wrong with respects to like its performance or its operational status. And this is all thanks to the rigorous and really formal guidelines that people have to follow when working in a traditional project environment. And let's keep this short. So risk management, Agile, there's a lot of dynamicity. So people are ready to take risks, but if there is a big risk of doing some sort of change, then the management usually is a bit more cautious. But then again, if it leads to a problem, it is quickly resolved. This basically helps foster a culture of empowerment within the team members, and the team members are encouraged to make critical decisions in collaboration with the management. But in traditional project management, this stuff is usually looked down upon. The risk has to be predictable. If it is not, then it is not given as much of a priority in the eyes of the management, and this basically discourages any team members from making like radical decisions in with regards to the project's life cycle and product development cycle. So now we come to the key takeaways. Agile emphasizes flexibility, as we have seen, and this reflects onto the management. Traditional traditional methodology, value structure. This also is reflected in uh, the management. Agile is more decentralized, yes, and traditional is more centralized in its decision making. Agile is usually continuously improving, and so is the management. They have to take into account a lot of things. But management in the project managers in traditional environments usually have to be very upfront about risk management and most of the changes they're going to make. Um, uh, the managers in agile settings usually learn from their failures. They're really dynamic in their approach, whereas it's the literal opposite for traditional work environments. And last but not least, stability in traditional projects is really, really important, and it may actually sometimes prove to be better than agile. So, yeah, that's all. Thanks for watching the presentation.